She gonna say they can go straight from a PTA meeting to a sexy night out in the town. Girl, a sexy night out on Bikini Bottom? Is that where you're going? Are you going to the Salty Splatoon? Please! You asked me to cover some of your favorite King of the Hill episodes. Well, I'm back. Darling, this is season 11, episode 1. The Peggy Horror Picture Show. If you know, you know. Buckle up! The episode starts with Peggy and some of her friends from the neighborhood doing what they're calling a clothing exchange. And the rules are you present an article of clothing and whoever calls it first gets dibs on it. So Nancy goes first and she presents a pair of maroon boots, okay? Peggy is like, oh, dibs, give me those. Y'all, she goes to put this shoe on her foot. It does not even make it past the calf. Like that shoe was tight. Like not only does it not make it past the calf, her foot won't even actually go into the shoe part. That's how big Peggy's feet are. And we learned this for the first time. So Luann calls dibs on them instead and Peggy gives them to her. So it's Peggy's turn next. Peggy pulls out a pair of pants that quite literally looks like they came off of SpongeBob, except they are blue. They are so boxy and ugly, and everybody is kind of looking like, okay, girl, she gonna say they can go straight from a PTA meeting to a sexy night out in the town. Girl, a sexy night out on Bikini Bottom? Is that where you're going? Are you going to the Salty Splatoon? Please! And her friends are like, I mean, maybe somebody will want, they pull out a pair of overalls and they're like, maybe this, Peggy, you not that bad. Yeah, her closet is terrible. And as if her femininity could not be threatened enough, one of her neighbors is struggling to open up the olives for their martinis. And she's like, give it to me. Peggy takes it and pops it up. Peggy is just such a complex, dynamic character, but this episode reminds us that she's just a girl that wants to be a girl. So she comes into the kitchen and obviously Hank can tell that something's wrong. He's like, how was the clothing exchange? I'm sure they love that football jersey that she had in there. She's like, yeah, but it turns out they don't really want stuff like that. They want the girly things. And she asks Hank, you think I'm feminine, right? Hank is like, I mean, you're a wife and a mom, so can't get much more feminine. It's not funny, but bless her heart. So Hank is like, you know what? Why don't you call that shoe store that you go to in Lubbock? I'll treat you to a new pair of shoes. And she's like, you know what? That's why I love you deep. Thank you so much, boo. And then she pans down and she realizes he's wearing the jeans that she was just showing the girls in the living room. So I love this episode so much because it is so complex in that it talks about how femininity is viewed versus what femininity actually is. And I love the dynamic of this discussion. So she goes into that kitchen, she picks up that landline and she calls Lubbock's. And she's like, hey, Lubbock's very big shoes. You know what I'm calling for? They're like, girl, we're a dog bakery now. That shoe store has closed and is up out of here. So Peggy goes into their computer room, which is actually just a closet. And she searches extra large women's shoe stores in Texas. And she finds a place named Clarissa's Closet. So of course she tiptoes in her heels, as T.S. Madison says, to the Clarissa Closet store. And she goes up to the front desk and she's like, do you have any shoes in the size 16? And the lady looks up and she's like, what brand? They pan to this wall and it's just full of shoes in size 16. Honey, she walks up to the walls, wedges and sandals and boots. Oh my. She even finds the boots that were just like Nancy's boots back at home. So in the next scene, she meets a young lady named Carolyn, and Carolyn happens to be trying on a pair of shoes that she was looking at. And Carolyn goes, okay, how much do you like zebra print? Like, girl, do you want these shoes that bad? And of course, Peggy is like, honey, I like zebra print the way I like a cute fat baby. Just give them to me, please. And she's like, all right, you can have them. She introduces herself as Carolyn, and Peggy introduces herself to Carolyn back. And as she's shaking Carolyn's hand, she realizes Carolyn also has the same firm handshake that she has. So back at home, Peggy didn't put that on, honey, whatever. And I mean that literally, because I don't know what she has on, but she was wearing it. And she put the shoes on and she's pretending that she's talking to people as Hank walks in. And Hank is like, why are you talking to people? She's like, oh, it's a technique that I learned from this lady named Carolyn that I just met in the store. And all Hank hears is, okay, so you won't be bothering me with this anymore. Praise the Lord. Amen. I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. In the next scene, Carolyn and Peggy have gotten lunch and they're eating chicken curry. Baby, when I tell y'all this curry chicken sandwich did not stand a chance with Peggy. In fact, Carolyn goes, girl, you ate that whole sandwich? And Peggy's like, yeah, that wasn't very ladylike of me. She's like, you cut me off because I was saying you ate that whole sandwich without messing up your lipstick. How did you do it? And this is when I immediately knew what was going on here. Walk with me, talk with me, friends. So Peggy is like, yeah, you just have to push your teeth forward to move your lips back and you should be able to do it. And Carolyn tries it and she does it. Carolyn goes on to say, well, this is going to save my life this weekend. I do this number where I sing and dance, and I need to go get a snack in between sets so I don't pass out. And this particular trick is going to just save my life. Thank you so much, Peggy. And I immediately again said, Carolyn, what club do you actually go and sing at? Because, honey, I have a feeling that I would enjoy one of your shows and that show is a drag show. And baby, I was right. So as they're riding to the next location, Carolyn looks over at Peggy and she's like, girl, these glasses, are you afraid of laser surgery too? Because I am as well. The closest I'm getting to a laser is the front row at a Shaka Khan concert. That was confirmation number 3 for me. I said, this person is a drag queen. And I want to see this show and I need to see Peggy's reaction to seeing a drag show for the first time. But Peggy doesn't get that at all. Peggy's like, actually, my glasses actually hide the wrinkles and fine lines in my eyes, and it makes me look about 10 years younger. And Carolyn's like, true that. So y'all, Peggy drops Carolyn off at her apartment. Carolyn walks inside and her mother is there, and she tells her mom, sorry, I'm late, Mom. The mom goes, don't worry about it. You don't ever have to apologize for being yourself. Also, I like the new wig, son. Told y'all. To which Carolyn's like, thank you, friend. And she goes and she takes his wig off. She's like, girl, this was such a fun day. I met this new lady named Peggy. She's a blast, but I don't know what his real name is. Peggy has been mistaken for a drag queen by a drag queen. I love this show so much because that is absolutely hilarious in every way for all the right and wrong reasons. And the reason I love this episode is because both of them do not know the real identity of each other, yet they still loved each other. They still got along. They still really enjoyed each other's presence and had no idea that they were completely mistaken of who this person actually was. So Peggy cancels her plans with Min and Nancy and decides to go to the mall with Carolyn the next day. Carolyn is immediately like, you are a brave one, girl. You going up in this mall? All of my friends buy their stuff online. To which Peggy goes, not only do I come to the mall, but I hide the good stuff in here, and pulls out this scarf that is like a beautiful scarf and gives it to Carolyn. Carolyn's like, oh, this is fantastic. I'm going to wear this at my show. Peggy then asks, what do you do for your act in your shows? So Carolyn's like, well, I don't do just one act like some of the girls do. I do a little Liza, a little Barbara, a little Celine. So Carolyn invites Peggy to the show because Carolyn is like, if you like Liza and Barbara and Celine, we can do a duet together. And I leaned in because this is when I realized not only will Peggy be experiencing a drag show for the first time, she'll be in the drag show. I love this show. Girl, in the next scene, Carolyn done got Peggy together the way Blue Ivy get Beyonce together every tour. When I tell you they in there hitting the 5, 6, the 7, and the 8, mind you, the song they're dancing to is I'm Every Woman. I love this show. As they are practicing, Hank and Bobby come in the door and Carolyn is like, oh, this is your husband? She's like, yeah. She's like, and Bobby, y'all adopted? Like, what's going on? Peggy's like, no, we didn't adopt, and I have the stretch marks to prove it. And as she is showing her stretch marks, Carolyn is looking around the room and she sees Hank and Peggy's marriage pictures. She sees Peggy pregnant. And this is when Carolyn realizes, oh my God, this is a woman. This is a biological woman. And I've been thinking that this was a drag queen the whole time. And Carolyn's like, girl, can I get another drink? Jesus. So Caroline goes back to her mama and she's like, Ma, Peggy is a real woman. Oh my God. The mother goes full progressiveness. Like, you mean she's a biological woman? Just because you were born a man does not mean that you are any less of a woman than anybody else. He's like, baby, can you stop being supportive for 2 seconds and just listen to what I am saying? Because I'm freaking out. I invited this woman to be a drag queen in my concert, and she is an actual biological woman. Y'all do not understand how much it tickles me. So Peggy has gathered all her things and she's on her way to the show, honey. Hank comes outside. He tells her, you forgot your little fur thing and I'll be there. I'll be sitting in the front row. She's like, you know what? Let's not have you sit in the front row. We're going to put you in the middle because apparently they do this thing where they kind of tease the people who are first timers. So we don't want that happening to you. Mind you, Peggy nor Hank have figured out that this is a drag show. So Hank was about to come and sit in the front row of a drag show and I still want them to write that episode. Min and Nancy come out and they're like, oh, girl, you look good. And that's when she tells them about the show and she invites them to the show as well. Y'all, why was there a 5-drink minimum on the tickets? And this is when I knew that the creators of this show had done their research, because baby, I have been to 1 or 2 drag shows myself. And when I tell you it is lit from start to finish, and that's because everybody is drinking from the second they enter that door to the moment they leave. Time of my life. Now, as Peggy is going to the drag show, Carolyn shows up at Peggy and Hank's house as Jamie, her male self. And Jamie introduces himself to Hank as one of Carolyn's very close friends, to which Hank says, that Carolyn is great. You got yourself a catch there. And he's like, yeah. So Jamie asks Hank, hey, where's Peggy? He's like, oh, well, she was going to get something done to her costume, and then she's immediately going to the club after that. And Jamie's like, all right, well, I'm just going to go ahead and meet her there. Bye, guys. Like, he looks completely uncomfortable being in these clothes and being Jamie, which I love the way the writers did that, because you see, Carolyn is much more comfortable as Carolyn than Jamie. It is very obvious in these scenes. Y'all, Peggy walks in this dressing room, and when I tell you every single person there is decked head to toe. In fact, a woman walks up to her that looks just like Diana Ross, to which Peggy says, if she wasn't dead, I would think that you was the real thing. Girl, Diana Ross is not dead. I don't know why she thought that. Like, why is Peggy trying to send Diana Ross to glory? So Carolyn walks in and she sees Peggy, and Peggy's like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Cannot wait. Carolyn's like, babes, we cannot perform. Actually, I can perform. You cannot perform with me because this is a drag show and I am a drag queen. To which Peggy goes, but I thought all drag queens were men. And she says, I am. I just cannot take this wig off to show you because it's too close to showtime. So you're going to go ahead and take your outfit off. You're going to go watch us in the front, but you're not going to be able to perform. Peggy turns around and she sees all these beautiful people and she's like, oh my God, they thought I was a drag queen. So Peggy's like, why did you think I was a man? She's like, girl, we have the same size feet and you were shopping at Clarissa's Closet. That's a drag store. And as it's hitting Peggy that not only did you mistake me for a drag queen, but I was shopping at a drag store because that is the only size shoe that I can fit. Her friends walk in and men is like, girl, what kind of place is this? Peggy goes to run into the bathroom and it is a dual gender bathroom. This writing is amazing. In the next scene, Peggy is devastated on this couch. She could not believe the cards that she was given. One, that she has a size 16 foot. 2, that a drag queen who was quite fabulous mistaken her for another drag queen. And her friends show up. They're banging on the outside of the window like, girl, don't even worry about it. You're the most feminine person we know. Didn't you coach that softball team? To which men is like, girl, we are trying to make her feel better, not worse. And in her depressive state, Carolyn is calling her back to back. And Hank is like, I'm going to answer this phone. I don't care what you think. He answers the phone and it's Carolyn, of course. And he lies and he's like, Peggy's not here. So Hank is like, what is going on? And Peggy is like, my friend Carolyn is actually a man who dresses like a woman. Y'all, I thought Hank's head was going to explode. He was like, girl, what are you talking about? And she's like, not only is she a man that dresses like a woman, but she thought that I was a man that dressed like a woman because I'm a woman that looks like a man. And Hank is like, what? No, you don't. And Peggy is devastated because she's just like, I don't understand why the only person that actually makes me feel like a woman was a man dressed like a woman. And Hank is like, I mean, okay, but I just feel like these are things that you should talk to Carolyn about, honey. You don't need to talk to me. You need to talk to your girlfriends. And she's like, but she's not my girlfriend. Like, she could not understand the fact that Carolyn, though Carolyn is a man that dresses like a woman, Carolyn was a good friend to her and actually made her love herself and what she looked like. And that is the lesson. So then Hank does something that I really respected. He gets on that phone. He calls Carolyn. He like, Carolyn, can I talk to Jamie? To which Carolyn's like, girl, let me go get him. Hey, Hank, what's up? So Hank and Jamie, which is also Carolyn, they go to this juice shop. And of course, Hank is in there being just a masculine man. I'll take a regular orange juice. They ask him, what nutrients do you want in your orange smoothie? He's like, no nutrients. I'm having a steak later. Girl, calm down. You know, some of y'all really could use a friend like Carolyn, because when I tell you Carolyn would have Hank's skin glowing, that belly would be in, baby, that jawline would be pronounced. Do you hear me? So Hank is like, Peggy is really upset. I think her and Carolyn got into it or something. And I'm now realizing, does Hank actually know what's going on? Does he know that Jamie is also Carolyn? It's not clear. Jamie says, no, Carolyn adores Peggy. In fact, wishes that she could be a little bit more like Peggy. She is just so feminine and beautiful. Hank asked Jamie, you think you can talk to Carolyn and get Carolyn to talk to Peggy? Because she was really a good friend to her, and I don't want to see her feel like this anymore. Jamie is like, absolutely, I'll get it done. Women got to work these things out. Hank is like, you know a lot about women. I really respect you. Like, Hank, Girl, later that afternoon, Hank's doorbell rings, and it is Carolyn. And the way Peggy was trying to sprint away from this lady was insane. So Carolyn's like, look, Peggy, I need to show you something, and I promise that it'll make you feel better. And Hank is like, look, I don't like to butt into female affairs, but you should go with her. So Carolyn takes her to a club called All the Queen's Men. Okay? They walk into this dressing room, and it is a room full of drag queens. Carolyn also asked Peggy to bring a bag of the clothes that she was trying to exchange with her neighbors, right? Baby, they lay them clothes out on the floor and the girls go crazy. They're like, girl, this is vintage. Where you get this from? Oh my God. They are trying on the clothes. They love them. So Peggy is like, I know that's not why you brought me here. You brought me here because a bunch of men want my clothes. He's like, no, baby. A bunch of men who want to look like women want your clothes. So Peggy is like, aren't y'all a little bit more impressed by women who are wispier and daintier and more feminine? He's like, girl, those come a dime a dozen, okay? No, we like people like you, the real girls. They're like, girl, we model ourselves after the strong girls, the ones who are not afraid to wear purple gauchos and MC Hammer glasses. You're the ones that we want to look like. Carolyn's like, all the girls who have the guts to wear stuff like this only need one name, like Liza, Barbara, Cher, Beyonce. And you, my dear, are simply Peggy. And after Peggy realizes that Carolyn is absolutely correct, she joins in on the exchange and she's like, I would love these platform sneakers. And they belong to a young woman that is dressed like Frida Kahlo. And that young person goes, you know what? You got them, girl. Go ahead and take them. I love this episode so much. It's just such a good feel-good episode with a really good message. Tell me what King of the Hill episode you would like me to break down next.